All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
What's it take to be a believer? Tell me who's to say. You think that we'd have come this far, looking back on yesterday? Because you hadn't seen, son, you tend to disbelieve.
And welcome back to Hour 2 of this edition of the X Zone, right here from your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca. My guest this hour is Rick McCallum, and he began his stunt career in 1982, performing a fight scene with Chuck Norris on the film Lone Wolf McQuade, and has more than 75 credits to his name. Rick has performed in numerous action and horror movies, and also has doubled for Daniel Baldwin, Barry Bostwick, Oliver Platt, Chris Noth, and many horror icons, including Kane Hodder and Sid Haig, as well as playing the monster in Deepstar Six. Joining me now from, well, let's see, where else would a Hollywood guy be but in California? Rick, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you.
What was it like being a stuntman with all these people and, just acting as a double kind of thing?
Well, it was actually quite fun to see how they were doing everything, and also painful. I mean, they don't hire stuntmen because it's easy. It was I did it for quite a long time. I did it for over 40 years, and got to see a lot of changes in the business, and got to meet some fantastic people. Two of the nicest people that you'll ever meet in your entire life were Chuck Norris and Clint Eastwood.
Really?
And I mean, you would think with their level of fame, they would be the ones that might have their nose on a joint a little bit, but it wasn't the case at all. They were as nice as they could possibly be.
I've heard a lot of nice things about Clint Eastwood, that, he goes to the commissary just like everybody else, waits in line just like everybody else, and treats everybody with the highest respect.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. He actually hires the same people over and over and over again because he's a very loyal man.
Wow. And you've worked with Chuck Norris. What was Chuck like?
Chuck was a super guy. I mean, he was like hanging around with one of the guys. And, he was just, very pleasant guy to be around.
Now, I understand you also worked on Naked Gun 33 and Third, Hatchet. And... man, what was it like working with Leslie Nielsen?
Well, I've done 2 movies with Leslie. He's actually very funny in when you actually meet him in person. He's quite a good guy. He killed me in Naked Gun, but I don't think it made it into the movie. But the other one was a movie called The Patriot, not the one with Mel Gibson.
Okay.
Is a different one. So, I've actually been in a couple of movies with him.
I had the opportunity of meeting Leslie Nielsen when I was doing an appearance at CHCH TV, and Leslie and I were in the same elevator going up, and he had his fart machine with him, and he got a great big kick out of it. And, he's
the guy who, my best friend is the guy who plays Jason in the Friday the 13th. Mm-hmm. And he also helped start our ghost hunting group, the Hollywood Ghost Hunters. And he actually had one of those. I don't know if he started or not, but I know that they had, him and his partner had them all through all the stores and the malls and stuff like that. But he used to use that thing everywhere he went. I mean, it was like, God almighty.
And Leslie Nielsen can keep such a straight face, when he's playing this off. It was great meeting him.
Oh, he's just a really, really nice guy. I haven't, in all the time that I've been on the movies and different things like that, I haven't really met that many people that were not nice.
Well, that goes to show that, that the industry isn't as bad as some of the rags make it out to be, that there are nice people working there, like Clint Eastwood, who, like you said, who treats everybody with great respect, Chuck Norris, and of course Leslie Nielsen. But tell me, how did you get into the ghost business?
Well, I kind of got drug into it. When I was 13, my grandfather died in one of those gun cleaning accidents, if you get my drift.
Yep.
And we lived in Chicago, my mom and I, and she didn't have very much money, and my grandfather hadn't had any either, so he wanted to be buried in Paducah, Kentucky. So we took off on a train from Chicago, and we got down there and, took the casket to where he was going to be buried the next day. And we didn't have time to get a hotel or anything else, so we just went out and started walking. And we walked down the street, and there was a hotel there that looked like they could have done any horror movie in the world that you wanted to. I mean, they had the flickering lights and the old brownstone. It was like, so we go walking in there. My mother said, how much are your rooms? And the guy told her, she said, well, okay, I can afford that. And he goes, well, I've only got one room left. And she goes, oh, that's okay. He goes, well, I have to tell you, it's haunted. Now, I wasn't really close with my grandfather. I'd only met him a couple times. And I was 13 years old, and when they told me I was going to be staying in a haunted room, I was like, woohoo, golden ticket to Disneyland.
Yeah, there you go.
So we go in, and we had a pretty tough day, a lot of traveling and everything else, a lot of emotion. And we walked into the room, and it looked like a volleyball court. It was a rectangle, and it was wood. And on each side, it was probably over 20 feet apart. It was a big room. They had rolling beds, so you could put them anywhere you wanted. Well, we were tired. We went to bed. And in the middle of the night, I heard my mother scream, and I sat up, and I was going to attack anybody with my 13-year-old self, to defend her. And I looked over, and her bed was just zipping across the floor towards me.
Oh, my God.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then I realized that my bed was going towards her. And the two beds smashed together, and we just sat there looking at each other. And my mother finally said, she goes, I think the guy downstairs is right. So we tried everything we could think of, rolling things to see if the floor was warped. And I got over there and I shoved it as hard as I could. It went about 4 feet. It got me hooked right there. I was like, there's something else going on here.
Now, I understand, along with your wife, Kane Hodder, you're the founders of Hollywood Ghost Hunters. And how haunted is Hollywood?
Hollywood's very haunted, actually. When you think of some of the things that have gone on here, I mean, we had the Night Stalker, we had the Manson family. There's some pretty bad blood here. The Wonderland murders with John Holmes, where they actually used pipes on a bunch of motorcycle guys. I mean, it has a lot of history of violence around here. And the most haunted place, I would say, that is out here by far, there's two. David Oman's house, which is right next to where the Manson family did their dirty work. And the other place, believe it or not, is the LAPD Museum. Wow. And, yeah, that place is really, really haunted. We used to do live feeds from there. Mm-hmm. And I tell you, it's very haunted. I mean, we used to get so many different things happening that the people that were there, for the ghost hunts would just come out shaking their heads going, man, oh man. And what was funny is it got more intense the more we went. So it was really something.
So what kind of paranormal activity would you get in the LAPD Museum?
We got a lot of EVPs, mm-hmm. In there, quite a few EVPs. And I seem to have made friends with a guy named Walter. And Walter was the first motorcycle cop killed, on duty. And the strange thing was, I was there with a thing called Dark Zone TV, and they were filming a 3-day live thing where they're watching the ghost hunting on, a live feed. Yeah. Excuse me. And I came in for the third day, and they were doing their roundup of the first 2 days, so they didn't need me. So they had me sit at the front reception desk where I can look out through the big double doors and everything else. And I'm just sitting there waiting for him to come back. And I hear a guy walking down the hallway real loud with like heavy boots, right? And I'm sitting there, and I hear the boots walk right in front of me, and I'm looking at the two double doors. There's nobody there. And they just keeps walking down the hall. So the guy that was filming the thing and putting it on, a man named Jay Blumke, he comes out and he goes, "Okay, we're ready for you." I said, "Well, I got to tell you something. I've already had an experience here." And he says, "What was it?" He goes, "Oh, Misha, come here." Now, Misha was the girl that ran the building to get us in there and everything else. And she says, "What?" And he says, "Tell her what happened." So I told her, and she looks at Jay. She goes, "I told you I hear that every day." Oh. So, I mean, I hadn't even been into the ghost hunt yet, and we had stuff going on. But to get to Walter, because Walter's fascinating, he and I seemed to get a bond for some reason. And I would go in there. Matter of fact, after the first 2 days, I went in, and I like to use the K2 meter. Mm-hmm. And I walked in, took it out of my case, and Brandon Albus, who a lot of you guys may know, he said, "I used that for 2 days. It didn't go off once." I said, "Oh, well, I can change that." And we walked into the room, and I said, "Hey, Walter, are you here?" And it went off all 5 lights, and they went, "Holy crap." Right? So I said, "Yeah, me and Walter are kind of friends. We've been here for a long time." But another case of that, it had about a 15-foot table, I would say. And when I came walking in from another room, there were 2 K2 meters on it and a couple REM pods. And the psychic that was there says to me, she goes, "Yeah, we just heard a name. We think it was Arthur." I said, "It was more likely Walter," right? And they said, "Really?" And I said, "Now, these K2 meters are about 4 feet apart a piece, so there's 3 of them on the table." And I said, "Hey, Walter, are you here?" And all 3 of them went off at the same time. And everybody's like, "Holy cow," right? And I said, "Yeah, Walter's very active here, So there's been so many things there. The LAPD museum also had the North Hollywood shootout room. That's where the 2 guys fired 1,700 bullets at the cops.
I
which
remember
is
hearing about that. Yeah,
roughly a mile and a half from me. And they ended up getting killed in the fire, gunfire. But that place, nobody wanted to go into it because it had such a bad feeling. And finally, I just said, "I'll go in." Right? I don't care about that sort of stuff. So I went in there and had a little chat with them, and then everybody came in, and boy, oh boy, the place just blew up with activity. I mean, the people with the SLS cameras were going, "Holy cow, look at this."
Rick, we've got to take... Rick, I hate to interrupt you, but we have to take a break here, so please stand by. X-Zone Nation. Rick McCallum is our special guest, and on Facebook, Rick McCallum, and it's McCallum, and we'll both be back on the other side of this break, talking about the strange, the weird, the bizarre, here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and stream classic1220.ca.
What's it take to be a believer?
Welcome back, everyone. Rick McCallum is my special guest on Facebook, facebook.com/Rick McCallum. And we're talking about his ghost tour business. And right now we're in the LAPD museum, and it's quite a haunted place. And why would it be so haunted?
That's a pretty easy one to answer. The LAPD museum is where all of the evidence, Marilyn Monroe, the Night Stalker, Manson's, all of the big cases in L.A., all of the evidence is stored in that building.
Oh.
So anybody that believes that you can bring energy with you, that's probably what has happened in that place, because that place is very haunted. I'll tell you a thing that happened to us there one day.
Please.
We were there for the 25th anniversary, and Ghost Adventures had just been there. So we watched their show before we went. And I learned something that I hadn't known, that a woman, I can't remember her name, I think it was Barbara, had actually gone into the gun range and passed away at her own hands, shall we say.
Yep.
And when we got down to back down to the table, we were all talking, and I just walked up and I said, is there a woman here who passed away in the gun range? And my K2 went off, all 5 lights. And I said, can you tell me your name? And it goes, Barbara. So, I mean, the fact that 10 minutes after we found out that this happened and that was her name, we already had her tell us her name that we got on tape. So that was pretty special right there.
Why do you think the ghosts hang around instead of going to the other side?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? I mean, some of them are happy where they are. Some of them don't want to see if they're going to get to, into the good accommodations, shall we say. And others just, one of the main things is some people, they don't know that they died. Like people who get killed quickly in a car accident or get shot and things like that. Some of them just don't realize, and that's one of the theories. Now, I can't tell you which one is real because, as far as I know, I haven't been dead yet, so I can't tell you what's going on there. But that's the 3 main theories behind them.
When somebody asks you to describe or tell them what a ghost is, what is your definition?
I'm glad you asked that, because I usually get it asked this way: what's the difference between a spirit and a ghost? Which is a pretty good question.
Sure.
A ghost is something that has not crossed over. A spirit is something that has crossed over but comes back. In other words, like when your grandma passes away, and then there's something happening and she appears, that is a spirit. A ghost is something that is still in the same area. The other ones have passed away. So,
in all the years that you've been doing ghost tours and ghost investigations, have you ever had the experience to actually see a full apparition?
Yeah, actually, several times. The latest one that happened to me was in a place called Coolross Palace in Scotland, and it's one of the big Outlander locations. And I walked in there, and I was with a group of 4 or 5 other people, and the lady that ran the place was talking, and we walked in. We were the last group. There's nobody else there. And we're standing there, and the door is really low. It's an arched door. And the reason the doors were so low is they did that on purpose, so in case anybody invaded in the dark, they'd smack their heads trying to get through into this next room. And as I'm standing there, I look over and I see a man wearing green coat and black pants walk by, but I couldn't see his head because the door was low for me. And I just told Linda, I said, Linda, the guy just walked by. I thought this place was empty. She goes, it is. So I just stepped through the hallway and looked, and there was nobody there. And the weirdest thing was the guy was walking very quickly. And when I walked out and looked, there's only like a foot past the one side until it's the stone wall. I mean, if he was an actual human, he would have smacked face first right into the wall. So that one was interesting. Had another one in Bolton Abbey that was less than 5 feet away from me. And I turned around and looked at the girl that had invited me from Nubis Paranormal. And her eyes were real big, and I looked back, and there's nothing there. And I turned back and looked at her, and she said, you saw it too, didn't you? And yeah, I sure did. So, yeah, I've seen a few in my day.
Rick, why is it that, you can have, let's say, 20 people in a tour. Something paranormal happens. Not everybody in that tour sees it or hears it or feels it. How do we explain that?
Yeah. Well, I have a theory about that. I go along with a thing called your vibe brings your tribe. And it goes the same with dogs. I'm totally convinced that dogs choose you. You don't choose them. And it's the same way with spirits. Spirits will come to the people they want to go to. Now, I've been in places where everybody saw something and I didn't see it. And I've been to places where I've been the only one that did see it. So I never, try and, say, poo-poo anybody's claim of seeing something. But I just think they come to who they want to talk to, who they want to have see them.
When you go out and do a paranormal investigation, how do you do it? What is the procedure that you use investigating?
Well, I do something a little different, and a lot of people have picked up on it and have been doing it too, because it just makes sense. Whenever I walk into a building, the first thing I do is I say, "Hi, my name is Rick, and I'm here, and I'm going to try and get some information from you. I've got some tools here with me, this," and I tell them how the K2 works, and I tell them I've got a voice recorder, and I will say, "Now, if you happen to have a loved one or somebody you want to leave a message for, I will hear it on this, and I can get hold of them for you, and if you want to actually leave a message for somebody." And everybody teases me because everywhere I go, and I mean almost without exception, you hear my name called out several times. And people go, "Well, why is it calling my name out and not yours?" I said, "Did you tell them your name?"
That makes a lot of sense.
I said, "I'm the only one who introduced myself here, right?" They said, "Yeah." I said, "That's why it's talking to me."
When you get places like the Waverly, that is always busy with paranormal investigators, I often wonder why the ghosts, why they say, "Hey, enough is enough, gang. We're not going to put up with this anymore. Ciao." Boom, and away they go. Why do you think they remain?
Well, that is just still, once again, the universal question. Nobody really knows. I mean, a lot of them, that will be, most of the people actually at Waverly were tuberculosis patients. And I think that's the last thing that they remember. So, I mean, they tend to stay kind of where they knew, and it's just, if I was a ghost, I'd be going to Hawaii and places like that, but they seem to stay right in their area. So
yeah, and as well as a lot of haunted bars and haunted hotels, and it seems like wherever they felt more comfortable. Like I've never, like here in Niagara, we have the Angel Inn where Captain Swayze, is seen in the basement near the men's room, and the entire area here is pretty well haunted because of the War of 1812. A lot of people died. A lot of soldiers died. A lot of First Nations men and women died. So I can understand that. But when it comes to some of the most unlikely place where ghosts hang out, it's like, why? For example, Rick, I have never had a Ghostbuster or a ghost investigator on this show, and I've been doing the show now for 34 years, tell me about a haunting in a mortuary.
You know what's funny? I've gone to mortuaries. Never gotten anything. And I'll tell you another thing. I've been to tons of graveyards, and very rarely do we get anything. And I think that is because the people who were the mortuaries and the people who were buried had gone to their final rest.
Okay, that makes sense.
Like I will tell you a story. There's a huge battle called the Battle of Roslin in Scotland, where roughly 40,000 English and Scots people went to battle, and 35,000 people died in this battle, most of them the English. And I actually got a chance to go out with one guy and go ghost hunt through the entire fields. Now, you would think that with that much death and hand-to-hand combat and everything else, that you would have a lot of activity.
Yeah.
And we got nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nothing on the K2, nothing on the EVPs, nothing. And it was funny because in my book, I wrote down the last thing when I was writing about it. I said, now, this happened in 1303, so it was 700 years ago. But I said, it's nice that we didn't get anything, because all I have to say about this is, gentlemen, rest in peace.
How about a place like Gettysburg? Have you gone there and done any hunting, investigating with your K2 meter, with your analog voice recorder?
Well, I have not gotten to Gettysburg yet. I mean, that's like the number one on my my bucket list. So, yeah, I will get there one day, and everybody tells me, everybody goes, have you been to Gettysburg? No, it's done. You know, and they're all over the moon about it, so it's definitely someplace I got to get to. But, you know, my dollars are pretty much spent. Spending, you know, a month in Scotland is not cheap. Yeah.
But I'll bet you it was worth every cent.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you got a place that's got, you know, 5,000 castles roughly, I would guess, something like that. So, I mean, there's always great places to go. There's one place that I went to with two of the guys from Scottish Paranormal, and it's called a place called Temple because it was a Knights Templar temple and headquarters. And we asked a question because we all had the feeling we'd been there before. And I asked a question. I said, you know, we all feel like we've been here before. Have any of us been here before? And it answered in French. It went, de toi, which is counting 1, 2, 3,
That's
which
right.
I took to say that all three of us have been there before.
Rick, we've got to take another break. Please stand by. Rick McCallum. Did I say it right this time, Rick?
They're all okay.
I'll get it, my friend. I don't mean any disrespect, but Rick and I will be back on the other side of this break talking more about ghost hauntings, things that go bump in the night. And if you'd like to find out more about Rick and his books, where you can get them, and much more, Rick McCallum. That is on Facebook.com/Rick McCallum. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in St. Catharines, Ontario on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca. Don't go away. We'll be back.
All around old Cape Horn, ships of the line, ships of the morn. Some who wish they'd never been born, they are the ghosts of Cape Horn. Fall-a-riddle-riddle-rum with a rim-dim-diddy and a rum.
And welcome back, everyone. That was Gordon Lightfoot with Ghosts of Cape Horn. You're listening to the X-Zone right here on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca. Rick, where has been the most haunted place that you have ever been?
I would say it was probably Bolton Abbey in England. It was so off the wall. There was a man actually got knocked out, and I used to be a lifeguard, and I grabbed him and got him, put him on the ground because we had picked him up and we had him sitting up, and he was still out. And I noticed he had like these vibrations on his chest, right? So, and it was cold out, so I thought, okay, either he's getting hypothermic or he's going into shock, right? So I got him on the ground, and I got the people from Anubis. They brought over their equipment cases. We got his feet up, and we started rubbing his arms and everything else, trying to keep him warm. And I took my coat off and put it over him, and then the other people started taking their coats off and covering him up. And after about 10 minutes, we got him so he could kind of stagger out of the place. But it was a very bizarre thing. There was the people there all said that they had seen a goat's head come flying at them. And I wasn't there. I was on another part of the thing. They said they'd seen goat's heads follow him, and then the last guy on the line, boom, down he went. So what actually happened there, I don't know. But I do know the people that were there, and I definitely trust them in what they're saying.
Sure. Rick, what is your take on EVPs? How do they work? Now, you've been in the industry. I'm in the industry. We know that unless something is said, it should not register on either analog recordings or digital, and yet EVPs do. How do we understand? How do we explain that?
Boy, I'm not the guy to explain the technical things there, but I just happened to find an EVP tonight that I was going through, and it's so funny where you might catch them. I was down in Tombstone at the Birdcage. I think most people know that place is pretty famous. That's where Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday and all those cats, hung around. Anyway, I got to ghost hunt there with just the owner. And I had left my night vision camera down at the poker room. And as I was walking up the stairs, I said, did you kill anybody down here? I thought to myself, did you see anybody get killed? And I walked upstairs, and Billy and I went and did our ghost hunting. And this place, Birdcage is very haunted, too. I had 9 pieces of equipment with new batteries all charged up, and in 45 minutes, they were all dead. So, I mean, that was pretty interesting in itself. But when I got home and I started listening, you can hear me and Billy coming down the stairs. And if you remember the questions I said, did you kill somebody? Did you see somebody get killed down here? And there's a Hispanic voice. Now, most of the people in Tombstone at the time were Mexicans, right? Because Mexico and United States are just right there, right? And so there was a huge Mexican population there. And as we're walking, we hear, we're walking down the stairs, and I'm watching the video. I hear this voice come in, and it goes, "I had to," which can only be the answer is, did you kill somebody down here? Right? Because you don't say "I had to" if you saw something.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
So I actually had called Billy up, and I'd sent him the thing, and he goes, "Wow, that's amazing." I said, can I get in there for like a half an hour someday, right? Just so I can see if he'll say anything else again. He goes, "Well, I could get you in right now if you're here." I said, "Good. Open the door." So he comes over and lets me back in. I went down there, and it took me exactly 38 seconds to get him to say something else. And I mean, this guy's talkative, and it's the same voice because I heard, because I recognized his voice from the first time. And I asked him, I said, "Did you see anybody get shot down here?" Right? Mm-hmm. And he goes like this. He goes, "Yes." It's clear as a bell. So, what are they? Obviously, they can communicate with us if they want to. I mean, I've gotten so many different ones. I mean, I've gotten threatening ones. I've got, ones that were nice. We actually got one at the Houdini house that said, "Get back here, punk." Right?
You sure that wasn't Clint Eastwood?
Well, no, Clint would be more like this.
Which Houdini house? Because we have a Houdini house here in Niagara Falls, Ontario.
Well, this Houdini house is it wasn't Houdini's house. Houdini actually lived across the street, and he used to come over. There was a tunnel underneath Laurel Canyon Boulevard, right? And he used to come over under the tunnel and come up to this guy's mansion, and him and his wife would hang out with them. So it wasn't actually his place, but it's always been called the Houdini house, right?
Yeah.
And there was another one down the road on the other side of the road that was called the Houdini house. So evidently Houdini got around.
Certainly sounds like that. What is your take on demons and the way that some ghost investigators and researchers actually seem to taunt the spirits and the ghosts?
Well, let me first off say that's about as stupid of a thing as I can imagine. Here's the deal with the whole ghost hunting thing. I've gone with people who want to be macho and start, you better show up or I'll do this and do that. And I'll take them aside and I'll say, if I talk to you like that at your house, what would you do? Say, well, I'd throw you out. I said, why do you think these things that don't have to appear, don't have to do anything with you at all, would respond to that kind of treatment?
It's a lack of respect.
They go, yeah, I said, I go in there, I'm friendly. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, I've had this, and if you ask anybody that has gone ghost hunting with me, they'll say, you are by far the most polite ghost hunter we've ever seen. Because if I get an answer or something, oh, thank you.
Well, it only makes
sense. You got to treat them nice.
Of course.
I explain to people, they say, what is your ghost hunting technique? I said, well, here's the deal. If you went out in your backyard and you saw a lost puppy, what would you do?
Bring it in.
You wouldn't rush towards him or anything else. You'd kind of kneel down and you'd talk, in a nice tone of voice so he'd know he's safe, mm-hmm. and let him come to you. It's the same with a spirit. The spirit doesn't have to come to you. He doesn't have to show up. They don't have to do anything, right? But they do for some reason. And I think the whole thing is vibration. There's some people that just have, the ability to tell the future. They have people that are really good psychic mediums.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other people that spirits just for some reason come to. And I think it's just whatever your vibration, I think they can see that.
Rick, in your experience over the many years you've been doing this, have you ever been physically attacked by a spirit or a ghost?
Yes.
Now wait a minute. You're such a nice guy. Why would they attack you?
Well, the one that attacked me, I wouldn't say it was a real attack. It was kind of funny. I was in Balgony Castle, and I'm standing there, and a bunch of us are all sitting around, and the skull goes, Rick! And all of a sudden, smack! Something slapped me right in the back of the head. And I turned around, there's nobody there. I said, what happened? She goes, I saw a white thing come up from the ground right next to you, and then, bam, it slapped you in the head. And I was like, okay. But, I mean, it was actually funny. I mean, it was like, okay, I'm sorry, whatever I said. But, yeah, they can be nasty. There was one in San Diego at the William Heath Davis House, and I think they've changed the name of it to the Horton Davis House now. I don't know why. But I was there with the San Diego ghost hunters, and I had a girl that was ghost hunting with me upstairs. They were downstairs doing different things. And as we started to go down, you could hear them talking on the spirit box. So we just said, why don't we just sit on the stairs and let them finish? So Brandy sat down. She's on a stair a couple up ahead of me, and I went to sit down, and something shoved me in the back down the stairs. And fortunately, my big butt was heading towards the stair because I had more weight down low than I normally would have. And I was able not to go flying down the stairs. I was able to catch my balance. But she starts, hollering. She goes, oh, my God, you got shoved. And yeah, it sure did. So, yeah, it does happen. Now, as far as demons, I see on TV all this time, and I get a lot of people call in to different shows I'm on. And they'll say, I think I have a demon in my house. And I'll say, you don't. And they'll say, how do you know? I said, because you only think you have a demon. I said, if you ever have a demon, you'll know. They'll get right in your face. I've had it run-ins twice in my life. Both of them were with the same dark energy, I'm going to call them. I'm not going to call them a demon. I'll call them a dark energy in my own apartment. So
why did
one of the things about attracting spirits, you can also attract ones you don't want to attract.
So why did this negative spirit or this negative entity, why was he attracted to you? What had you done in order to get him attached to you?
I didn't get it. He didn't attach to me, but he just showed up one night.
Oh.
I heard a noise, and I got up in the middle of the night. And I've lived in my apartment for 30 years, and I mean, you get to where every little nook and cranny and how the light should be. Well, I've got vinyl vertical blinds, so there's no light coming in, right? And I come up, and it's really light back in the kitchen, and it's dark in the dining room. I mean, real dark in the dining room. And I'm like, and I have all the lights on. I'm like, what's going on, right? And it kind of threw me off, so I just stood there for a second. And then I saw the microwave was through the cutout for the kitchen, and I could see what looked like a head start to come up. So I picked my fist up because I thought it was a burglar, right? I was getting ready to defend myself, and I'm standing there, and it went up, and it went up, and it went up, and it blocked the light, the clock on the microwave. It blocked that out, so I knew something was between me and that, right? And I could see, because there was more light from the back, it was backlit. Right, so I could see the silhouette. Now, I'm 6'4" and 230 pounds, and it just dwarfed me. And you could feel the energy coming off of it, and I was like, oh boy. And I wasn't going to give it the satisfaction of running away, because personally, if it is something evil, I play for the other side.
Of course.
Right? If that makes sense.
Rick, we're going to have a bit of a cliffhanger here. I do have to take my final break in Exonation. When we come back, the conclusion of this hour with our very special guest, Rick McCallum. and talk about more ghost hauntings, things that go bump in the night, and maybe a story or two about Hollywood. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on your hometown radio, Classic 1220. Don't go away.
All around old Cape Horn, ships of the line, ships of the morn. Some who wish they'd never been born, they are the ghosts of Cape Horn. All around a riddle-de-rum with a rim-dim-diddy and a rum-dum-dum. Sailing away at the break of dawn, they are the ghosts of Cape Horn. Oh, my love, my darling, I've hungered for your touch a long, lonely time.
Welcome back, everyone. Rick McCallum is our special guest. And Rick, with all the experience you have in Hollywood and all the great people that you've had the opportunity of working with or just hanging with, the movies that we've seen, like Ghost and Ghostbusters, how real to the fact that you've actually done investigations would you say not Ghostbusters, but oh my god, Ghost with Patrick Swayze was to what happens?
Well, I think Patrick Swayze's was much more close to what actually will happen. Ghostbusters was a comedy.
Yeah.
You know? But, yeah, there's, ghost hunting and ghost interaction is different for everybody else, right? No two people will really have the same reaction. They might see the same thing, but they won't react the same way. So ghost would be the closest one.
All right, before we went to the break, you were telling us about this dark entity or this dark force that was between you and your microwave, and you're 6'4", you weigh 250 pounds, and this thing dwarfed you.
Oh, yeah, and the weird thing was I could feel like waves of negative energy coming off of it, like it was trying to scare me.
Right.
And I got to tell you, it was doing a real great job of it, right? And, it was obviously, it was obvious what it was. It was negative energy, and it was here to cause some sort of distress, let's put it that way. But I'm not really the kind of guy that reacts to that very well. Right. When you've made a living off of falling down stairs and off the hood of cars while they're driving and stuff like that, you have a tendency not to get scared of a lot of stuff. You've used up all your scared stuff working. But I just decided, okay, if this is it, it's on, right? So I stood there and I made like a quick jump, like I was going to head to it, and I jumped to the side and I hit the light and there was nothing there. But I know you only have a limited amount of time, but it did go away, but it did come back.
It did.
So, yeah. So, and that's a long story, but yeah, it did come back, and then I haven't ever seen it again after that time.
What is your take on reincarnation?
Well, you know what? That fascinates me, and I'll tell you why. Because there's so many cases of little kids that know how to fly planes that other people have said, well, I used to live on this street, and if you go here, there's an oak tree over there, and there'll be something over here, and it'll be like the girl from Ireland. I can't remember her name. She was the first real one that people paid attention to, because she said, yeah, I used to be this, and I lived over in this city, and she was always talking. A little girl. Mm-hmm. They finally said, okay, let's go look, and they went over there, and it was exactly like she was describing. So that's the little kid that they took him, put him in a plane. He kept saying, well, this is to go up, this is to go down, this is how you do this is how you do that. And they said, well, did you ever fly a plane? He goes, I did, and it crashed. And they found out that he said the name, and they found out that the name of the guy died in the war, and he got crashed into the ocean. So, yeah, it's a very cool idea. A lot of religions go by it. A lot of people go by it, stuff like that. And I certainly don't discount it. Let's put it that way.
If somebody listening tonight has been inspired by your ghost encounters, the places that you've been, what you've seen investigating, what you've heard, what you felt, how would you suggest they train themselves to be a ghost investigator, a paranormal investigator?
Well, I wouldn't say you can train yourself. You can train yourself on how to use the equipment. You know, the better you know your equipment, by the way, is much better for your results. But it's still going to be how you act, what kind of person you are, right? When you walk into a room, do the ghosts automatically see you and say, I want to talk to that person? Because like I think they can see a color or a vibration that they can sense. You know, just like I'm allergic to dogs, almost all of them. Wasn't always. But for some reason, dogs just love me. I mean, every one of them I know, they come running up to me. Matter of fact, the girl downstairs has a dog that I'm not allergic to, and that dog like comes up and sits on my head when he walks. You know, I mean, he just crawls all over me. But I think that's the same way with spirits. They can tell what you're made of.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Working in Hollywood, did you share any of your experiences with other members of a cast or a project that you were working on? And what was their take on it? You know, here you are, this stuntman, this burly guy who goes flying off the hoods of cars and downstairs and into fights, talking about ghosts and spirits.
Yeah, I was staying at one. I'm not allowed to say which studio it was,
okay,
but we were at a studio, and we were doing a movie, and I looked over, and Tony Todd, the guy who played Candyman, was one of the leads of the movie. And I said, "Hey, Tony, I'm going upstairs to ghost hunt. Do you want to go?" Now, Tony's like 6'6", 250 pounds, and he's got a real deep voice. And I said, "Hey, Tony, you want to go upstairs, go ghost hunt?" He goes, "Oh, hell no." So, yeah, the lady, the makeup lady went with me, and I had this on tape somewhere, and it's hilarious because these other people heard I was ghost hunting up there, and they came up, a security guard and one of the guys on the crew, and they were seeing me with the K2 meter, and they're saying, "What's going on?" We said, "Well, we're just ghost hunting." He said, "What's that thing in your hand?" I said, "Well, some people think that, you know, if spirit comes up, that they can light this up, and the more lights, the stronger it is." And he goes, "Is it gone off?" I said, "Yeah, it's been answering our questions." And the girl goes, "Yeah, we saw a big black shadow down at the end of the hall," right? And the one guy was going, he went all super macho. He's like, "I ain't afraid of that, blah, 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 blah." And I said, "Oh, by the way, we did hear voices, too." And he goes, "You did?" He said, "Yeah." And he goes, "I ain't afraid of no ghosts." And right then, the K2 meter went all 5 lights, and him and the other guy ran down the hallway and down the stairs. You could hear him running down the stairs, running away.
Gosh.
It was hilarious.
So where are you going to be going next to do your investigations? You've been practically everywhere, but you still say that the number one place on your bucket list is Gettysburg. Any other battlefields in the United States that you've done an investigation at?
Battlefields, the Battle of Franklin. I was at that one in Tennessee, but that's pretty much the only other battlefield that I've been at. I've been in a lot of battlefields in Scotland. I mean, the Battle of 1303, Culloden. I mean, people will ask me all the time, "What is haunted in Scotland?" And I'll go, "Scotland." The whole freaking place is haunted, right? People don't remember, you know, what happened, you know, in Scotland. This was, you know, 100 years of fighting, you know, just to, you know, be able to get independence. And then when they fought back in the day, they didn't shoot each other with drones. You know, they were face to face to where you could actually smell what the guy had for lunch.
Yeah.
You know, so there's an intensity about Scotland that you don't really see anywhere else.
Here's a question for you, and I've very rarely asked this question. If there are ghosts of humans and spirits of humans that are picked up during a paranormal investigation, what about animals?
Oh, there definitely are animals. Absolutely, unquestionably, without a doubt, there's animals. There's been instances where dogs have ran burglars off and people who are planning to do harm to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they are definitely around. And, dogs are really good, and cats are too, at picking up when there is, paranormal activity inside your apartment.
I had a lady on the show last week who trains paranormal teams to train their animals to be paranormal investigative animals that actually go with them on their investigations.
Yeah, I mean, they are, a lot of people don't realize that dogs can hear 40 times better than humans. And a lot of people think that, when dogs start, alerting on somebody that may be up to no good,
mm-hmm.
it's because dogs can actually, from what I've read, hear your heartbeat. And when you've got, bad things in mind, your heartbeat speeds up. And they can hear that, and you'll see. I mean, we had 2 Dobermans before I got allergic. And they would sit there, and all of a sudden, their ears would perk up, and they'd look at the people, and the guys would start getting real nervous. And it was like, guys, you gotta simmer down because, you're firing up the dogs. So, yeah, they're very perceptive. I've had the little puppy downstairs that comes up and stays with me every once in a while. He went to the back room where people have seen a full-body apparition several times. Went back there, and his tail went straight up, and he's going, he just stood there for about a minute growling, and then he turned around and looked at me, and he ran back, and his tail was wagging. He sat at my feet, and he turned around, and he was looking back into that room. And, he was still keeping an eye on stuff. So, dogs and cats are very, very perceptive. And I've always wondered why more people didn't take them with them.
Oh, well, apparently they're starting to now because they realize exactly what you've been telling us about the animals and how they've reacted. Listen, Rick, I've got about a minute and a half. What are your final thoughts of that you'd like to share with the audience tonight?
Well, I'd like to all of them to go out and buy the books that I have up on Amazon, which is Ghosts Believe in Me and The Spirits Are Out There. Ghosts Believe in Me won the Paranormal Book of the Year award from the Paranormal Awards show. But the reason I'm hawking the books, because that's not generally my nature, I gave the money from the sales of the books to St. Jude Hospital.
God bless you. That's a wonderful cause. And it'll be our pleasure to help you sell your books.
Yay!
Rick, I want to thank you so much for joining us. And like I said to you on the break, anytime you'd like to come back and share your experiences with us, the door will always be open.
Hey, anytime you need some guy with a lot of stories, I'm here.
All right. Take care of yourself. Nice meeting you, Rick. And take care of yourself and watch out for moving vehicles because you might get hit and get thrown over the hood and you might end up falling down a flight of stairs. Take care of yourself, my friend.
Well, I'm the guy you want to do that. I know how.
Good night, Rick.
Anyway,
All right, Exo Nation. That was Rick McCallum. What a guy. We'll be back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X-Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And we come to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. until midnight. So until tomorrow night, my friends, remember this. Take care of each other. Give your child a hug and a kiss. Tell them that they're loved. And always keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.